You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan and Kaan.
Welcome back, everybody. Besiktas International's The Black Eagles podcast, and we're back for episode 98. It's a very special episode. I don't want to give any spoilers about how special it is yet, because it's going to ruin my intro. But of course, I am here, your host Sinan, live from New York City, and with me are a few co-hosts who are remaining remarkably quiet, which is just, congrats to you guys. Okay, first of all, coming in from Belgium, back again with some consistency, folks. Kaan, everybody. How you doing, Kaan?
Shouldn't you be saving the best for last?
You're like, I don't know. You're the one that people would expect. I'm kind of keeping the surprises for last. I don't know. But anyway, Kaan's here. Back again, and another returnee with us, I should say. Evran the Akman is back, coming in from upstate New York. How you doing, sir?
Doing great.
Yeah.
The Aquaman. And my gosh, the hits keep on coming. With me, the biggest surprise of all. We have someone coming in from Scotland. Kartal, everyone!
It's an honor to be back on the show, guys. And actually, I'm coming to you from Turkey just now. Not Glasgow, Scotland.
Get some pottery while you're out there. Give me some plates.
Some of that porcelain.
Yeah,
it's everything a 21-year-old boy wants. Some pottery plates.
Some of them hot plates. Give me some hot pottery. Yeah, man. And so, of course, it's an honor to have all of you guys with us for this one. I hope our listeners enjoy this. It should be a blast to record and probably an even bigger blast to edit. Kaan knows what I'm saying. But so, yeah, we, of course, have some real football stuff to talk about, but I'll tell you what, we're going to push that off till the next episode. And of course, I'm talking about the friendlies. We're going to probably briefly talk about what happened there. The recent match against Erzurumspor in the frozen tundra. And whatever comes next, of course, we're going to have this upcoming Sivas match, the first of the second half of the season. But before we get to that, this episode is all about the decade that has just passed us. What a decade it was, to be honest, for Besiktas fans. I'm talking a lot, though, and I have so many guests here. I wanna get some input from you guys. Just generally, the decade that just passed. What are your thoughts before we get into the nitty-gritty? Kaan, you have some long-term vision on this, as I do, so let's hear from you first. How do you feel about this decade that's just passed?
When the decade started, I was fully convinced that we were right about to head into a golden era. With the transfers of Ricardo Quaresma, Guti, Manuel Fernandes, Hugo Almeida, Simão Sabrosa.
Yeah.
I was convinced we were headed into a golden age for Besiktas. Unfortunately, it took about half a decade before we would see anything near that of a golden age or whatever that would remotely resemble that. But the mid-2010s were very fun, starting in 2015, of course, even 2014 perhaps. We saw a project being built. that project ending up in success. Long-term plans with signings such as Ozhan, Cenk, Gökhan Töre, those types of players coming to fruition, those long-term plans. It was a very fun 2015 to 2017, maybe 18, still a little bit. And then, of course, we have had to come back down to earth. And now we are in misery. But it was all in all a pretty decent decade. I would argue a better decade than the 2000s, really, because we really only had one super good year in the 2000s.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we have to reckon with something here. We are not Galatasaray or Fenerbahce. We are a bit behind them in terms of the total haul of titles. And as such, a decade that has this amount of titles, and this kind of success on the international stage or the continental stage, that's, kind of pretty good, right? I think we could say from the big picture. I'm curious to hear what the younger guys think, because really you guys kind of have come of age in this decade, as, alongside this Beşiktaş era, which I guess is like the end of Yıldırım Demirören and the whole Fikret Orman thing, which had its ups and downs, obviously. I'll give it to Kartal, since you're the less frequent host between you and Evran. Kartal, how do you feel about the decade, generally?
In general, it's full of ups and downs, really. Just I feel like Beşiktaş is just like life itself, like for your good times and bad times, it's a bit of a roller coaster. I felt at the start of the decade, we were all very excited with the arrival of Ricardo Quaresma and Guti, and we were hoping for Robinho as well, because I always remember it was in June, Quaresma came in July, Guti came in August. We were hoping for Robinho. That didn't quite happen. And then we were able to get the likes of Manuel Fernandes, Simão Sabrosa and Hugo Almeida in January. On paper, that looked like an amazing team, but really, despite having this great kind of group of foreigners, the Turkish score wasn't quite there, and we ended 5th. And we won the Turkish Cup. Other than that, the years after that were pretty poor. When Fikret Orman came in 2012, you could start to see that there was plans in place, and eventually that got to 2014-15, where Bilic's second season, we were really starting to see this plan come to fruition, and we're starting to get some success on the European stage. Made a push for the title as well. And then after that, obviously the Şenol Güneş years, where we won back-to-back titles and a couple of great runs in Europe. But as Kaan said, we kind of did come back to earth after that with really last year wasn't a great year, and this year's been pretty shit as well. But
yeah, to be fair, I mean, yeah, and it's picked up, right? I mean, I feel like this year we can say that at least there's more of a sense of something that's like building for the future, whereas last year really felt, I don't know, it was heavy. It felt like we were like decomposing a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, I totally agree.
But still, if you look back and you look at these 10 years, so in, let's say, 2010-11, we didn't really vie for the title. 11-12, I don't think we really did either. 12-13 was obviously Feda, which was a huge point in the decade. I think we have to definitely speak about that. Then 13-14, we didn't really go into the title race until the final weeks, but there was some hopes there. 14-15, I definitely think we were in the title race until the last couple of weeks. Obviously 15-16 and 16-17 we won the title. Then 17-18 we were in the top. We ended 4th, but we were only 3 points off of first place, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
It's 4 points. 4 points.
Weren't we on 71 and they're on 74?
I think it's 75, Kaan, if I'm not mistaken.
Anyway, we were on a high amount of points compared to the champion, so we got very close. And last season, we were really in it until the Galatasaray match. That was last season, right? No, that was the season before.
Both years.
Yeah, both years. So really, I mean, I think if you look at the count, I think in 7 out of 10 years we were in the title race until the final 4 or 5 weeks or so. We won the title twice, obviously. So I think the decade was pretty okay from that perspective. Because I mean, I remember seasons where we were 20 points behind the champions in the 2000s. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And again, in a history sense, like our best eras have consisted of these little runs of 2 or 3 titles. So we got that in this decade, which is, in a sense, it's one of our better decades. So especially when you consider the Champions League run and some of our better Europa League runs. Obviously not in these last couple of years, but these are. I mean, the thing that's, if you look at the decade as a whole, these last couple of years in Europe are actually the exception. We've by and large done well in Europe and bolstered our reputation. Coming into the decade, if you look at our kind of reputation at large, we came into the decade as a team that people who really knew football and specifically had some knowledge of Turkish football might know Beşiktaş. And we come out of this decade as a team that if you know football well, you probably have heard the name Beşiktaş quite a few times.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Yeah. So anyway, but Evran, you're the only one who we haven't given the opportunity to speak yet. The youngest of us, of course.
You're still drying off.
He's still drying out from his shower. Aquaman. Evran, the Aquaman, what do you think about the decade as a whole before we get into the starting 11s and all that, which we'll do next?
All right. Well, I mean, this is like when Quaresma joined, which was at the start of the decade, or start of when I remember. I was about 11 years old, so that's kind of how my childhood as a player was formed. He changed my life. But I think overall it was. I can't lie. As a young kid, the things he was doing on the field, I've never even seen before. Just watching
the ball, Evran.
I know. Watching
the American football too.
I used to be a kid at times. There was Barcelona on, Messi was there, Kartal was there, but I was here watching Beşiktaş with Serdar Özkan, and then all of a sudden this guy came in and started doing crazy things that I didn't know were possible. And that was when I really started watching a lot.
I'm sorry that we laughed. No, we shouldn't, because it's true. I think we have to consider that coming up, he really was, especially with his flair. He's a phenom, and I can imagine especially a young boy, a young Aquaman. Yeah, totally. No, but sorry. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Everyone.
Yeah, and then I think there was, obviously we didn't get Robinho, so there was all that hype, as Kartal said. And we had the whole
more Diego Forlan hype, actually.
I don't remember that, but I was also
2011 or 12. There was a lot of Forlan hype. I think it was 2011 before he went in Oman.
Pretty sure it was the summer that we got Gutien Quaresma.
I think it was the year after. I'm pretty sure it was the year after, man.
But yeah, and then the whole Portuguese gang thing happened. But we never really played well, to be honest. And then everything went downhill, hit the fan.
I think we did play well, but we had this ridiculously high defensive line under Schuster, which just got exploited time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, losing 8-2 to Kiev, or was it 8-1 on aggregate?
8-1 on aggregate, yeah.
I think that was the first time this decade I cried.
We lost 8-1 on aggregate, yet we dominated both those games.
Yeah, that really killed me.
They just absolutely bleeped us on the counter every single time.
Yeah.
The only time I've been more frustrated this decade in a European sort of two-leg series was probably the Arsenal one, where I felt like we were really dominant but just couldn't score. It was the qualifier for the Champions League.
Yeah, but there we played 2 really good games, and we kind of got robbed by the referee, though.
That's what I mean. Clear
penalties.
Yeah, for sure. But I really felt like if anyone who watched the match carefully, they would have come away with a lot of respect for Beşiktaş. But for like plastic kind of Arsenal fans, which there are a lot of in New York, to be honest, they would have just been like, haha, we beat you, look at the score, like you guys are.
Yeah, but with
whatever.
Kiev, I mean, if you concede 8 goals, it doesn't really matter if you dominated possession, you still played like shite in the sense that you can't defend
for sure,
or to crap, you know?
No, I just meant as far, whatever. Yeah. I just mean as far as like a series where we played well and should have won. But yeah, totally. As far as like being a little embarrassed by this,
it's weird by how I really vividly remember, because that were the days that you and I, Sinan, we were on Soccer Fans Network, where of course you had this amazing posse of Galatasaray fanboys that were always, doing what they do and trolling. And I remember just being so frustrated with that Dynamo Kiev tie because of how they ridiculed us, and in a way deservedly so. But on the other end, I had the feeling that many people just didn't watch those games and didn't really, because I had the feeling that a lot of people thought that we just got owned by them, which we kind of did, I guess. But I don't know. When you have the ball, you're taking all the initiative, and they just hit you counter. It's kind of, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know.
I don't even want to talk about Kiev. Every time I think about that, I just get angry. It just happened again.
It's funny though, those Galatasaray fans taking the mick out of you guys, because we beat them twice that season, and we also we were the last derby in the Ali Sami Yen, and we beat them 2-1.
That's true. Yeah, Nobre and Guti, I think. No, yeah.
Nobre.
Nobre scored on a Guti assist. I don't remember who scored the other goal though. Was it Guti? Might have been.
It sounds like I do remember a fantastic.
Right. Probably the last penalty we ever got in Galatasaray. Not even kidding, actually.
I know. I don't think you are.
Yeah, that might actually be. Yeah. Oh, well, sorry. Let's Evran let him finish his stories, and then I'll come to a couple of.
I'll try to be quick. And then I think with like the 2012 kind of era where it was Quaresma's last season, I think, in my opinion, I know Kaan will say it's not. That was like the best Fernandes we saw, and that Fernandes to me was the best midfielder in the league. And then just like the next years after, I had to watch him like slowly stop trying.
What did you say that I would disagree with you, or what?
Do you think his the year after Quaresma left was Fernandes' best year? I think his
best was 2012-13. That was his best season.
Wise, he had a lot of assists, but when he went from the afro to the braids, that's when it went to the gutter. He stopped trying.
No, 13-14 when it
I don't
was
care how many assists he had. He only cared about assists. On free kicks, he would try and take those free kicks, but back 11-12, he would literally take on like 4 guys in midfield. They'd all be like climbing on.
You're just thinking of that one position against Fenerbahce where he turned himself open with like 3-4 guys around him, right?
He did it against Maccabi Tel Aviv. He would do it like every game. He would just back into players, and you're like, all right, he's gonna lose the ball, and then somehow he would just break out of 3 challenges and play like a great pass. And then the goal he had against Manisel, like he dribbles 3 players, he just stopped trying. He was like, all right, I'm going to save myself for injury. I'm going to save myself for my next contract, because we should have sold him, to be honest. Which I think is the key point of this whole decade is we never sold players when we should have.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Definitely.
Yeah, we could have sold Quaresma.
We're still sitting on Ozan. Well, we could have probably made like
at least we tried, but they didn't want to take him,
We could have made 10 million off Ozan at some point.
Yeah, Ozan.
I'm pretty sure in 14-15 there was a bit big offer from Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, I always take like the second or third highest one, as reality, just to be safe. Because you never know.
Moving on, obviously Feda, I hated it because I wanted Quaresma to play, and he left.
The Feda era.
There was some decent memories, the old guy goal in the derby, but it was very clearly, some of those players just weren't Besiktas material. I was watching Enaramo play. Maybe he came the year after that, but players like that, Mehmet Akgüz,
Oh, come on, but he had a great first name.
But despite the fact that we had like those scrubs running up top, we still managed to play fluid attacking football, and somehow now with scrubs up top we can't.
All right, well let's headline to this. Let's do a little section, since I think this is an important enough sort of part of the decade that I think we should take a little time to talk about this. This is a fun way to sort of divide up the episode. Let's talk about the Feta era, because I really do think it was a definitive. That's what I'm looking for. It was a very definitive moment in the era, and it really sort of set up. It like ended one portion and it sort of begun. It was the real divider, I think, as far as the two parts of the decade.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it started off the Orman era.
Yeah, and with a bang. You know, I think we all recognize the need for it. We all learned about what Yildirim Demirören had done to the club and all the debt we'd accrued and all of that. And so we knew what was coming, and the way it was done with some class. By the way, Kaan, Kaan brought us the Badish, the guy who made the Beşiktaş book, as part of the whole Feta era thing. It was a great era in terms of people pitching in to help out the club and like raising money and buying shirts and all the. It was. I think it was a period that galvanized the fan base, and it led to some good years of support from the fans as well. Feta was a good base for the whole fan base to build on, and it really did bring us together for a while. What's like the legacy of the Feta era to you guys? Because like we're almost right back into the thick of it as far as financial ruin. So like I don't know if the lesson has been learned institutionally, but what do you think is like is there a lasting legacy of the whole Feta thing?
I think that's when the foundations for the success that we later saw was built.
Yeah,
and I also think we overachieved that year as well. I don't think anyone expected us to end third. I think that people were actually expecting us to be maybe mid-table. I think Sami Taibala, he did put together a very dynamic, exciting team. They played really nice, attractive attacking football. We couldn't defend for shit. That's something else, but offensively, it was good football, man.
We played fun football in against the small teams and at home, but when we went like to Fenerbahce, I remember Aybaba doing some really weird stuff, like he put Escudé in for his first start of the entire season, and he put Boral on the left back and just like tried to fortify the defense, but that totally blew up in his face, and he didn't play the football we were playing, and he to me that really was like kind of a. I think we were all kind of we weren't expecting to play for the title or anything, but he should have showed some more balls there.
Uwe Boral's a name I don't think I expected to ever hear again. Like that really hit me. It was like, whoa.
I should have been my team of the decade.
That's an interesting. No, please, you're not gonna. No, interesting. Interesting points. I mean, I think it was definitely. It showed for me a new kind of humility, I suppose you could say, from ownership. Kind of, not to overuse the word, but they kind of owned the problem that Beşiktaş was having. Were very transparent about it. I think it was refreshing to see, in the way that they kind of brought the fan base in to even contribute. And I mean, so there was some hopefully lasting things that we can kind of build on if we ever have these problems again, which I think we may.
But I want to point out something, Sinan, because we see this transparency. That's what we saw from the Orman administration in the beginning, because obviously what they were being transparent about is what the previous administration messed up.
Of course.
And we're seeing the exact same thing now with Ahmet Nur Çebi's administration at Beşiktaş or Ali Koç at Fenerbahce. It's very easy to air the dirty laundry of those who came before you. But the question is, 2-3 years down the road, are they still going to be as transparent?
Yeah, right. We'll see about that. But interesting point to add to that. For anyone who's really feeling like they need to complain about Fikret Orman now that he's gone, I think we can all agree that like a couple months removed from that era, our view of Fikret Orman is so much better than how we would have viewed Yildirim Demirören a few months after he was out, because the kind of financial ruin that he left us in, especially relative to Figure Orman, was astounding. And I think ultimately we're still really working our way back from that debt, because as successful as the Feta era was in some regards, it's not like we wiped the slate clean. We're still very much working on compounded debt from that era. So.
100%. Demirel left us with only debt, and Orman left us with a state-of-the-art new stadium, a very big mega sponsorship deal with Vodafone that's still running for, I think, 5 more years, at least the naming rights or something, or 4 more years. So, I mean, yeah, no doubt. Orman left us with a legacy that's a lot better, but I think that Orman definitely made massive blunders too. Every board makes mistakes. There's stuff that happened under the Orman administration that should not have happened, that are pure amateuristic. But I really don't believe that if it wasn't for the economical crisis in Turkey, I do not think Beşiktaş would be in the position they are in the bad position they are in right now. I just think that's like, how do you say it when your house is struck down by a hurricane? It's like by the power of God or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Overmacht is what it's called in Dutch.
We have like in contracts, right? Like an insurance, act of God,
act of God, exactly. So it's kind of like that stuff that was unavoidable. Obviously,
maybe giving too much credit to politicians. I don't know if I want to call them God, but for sure, yes. I see your point.
In Dutch, it's not made to be out as a religious thing, at least. But yeah, no, I mean, it's like the situation could have been a lot easier to deal with, I think, and I think it's no coincidence that all the clubs are struggling right now massively the way they are, and it's just because of that economical crisis that Turkey has been in for the last year or 3-4 or something.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Time.
It makes it impossible. It makes it simply impossible to climb out of that hole we're in. It just doesn't. It's like you're stuck in quicksand. It's impossible. The more you struggle, the more the more you get sucked in.
Yeah, sure. But so on that note, I think that's a kind of nice little historical portion of the era to discuss. But let's move on to the nitty-gritty here. I mean, we have a lot to talk about between our own selections, and we have a lot of contributions from the internet to add as well. But let's start to talk about some of our highlights from the decade. And I guess let's focus on the starting 11s. What I think we should do is we'll talk about ours first, and then we'll read some of the contributions from the internet off. But I think what we'll do is go position by position, and each of us select our guys at each position. And so instead of taking time to each do our own starting 11, that way we can kind of have the discussion positionally. So let's start from the back, as we do every episode when we talk about the lineup pre-match, or I suppose post-match. And let's talk about keepers first. I think there's not going to be much debate, to be honest. As much as I'd like to throw a monkey wrench in there and say it's Karius, I don't think we're making that argument, especially this week. Fabri, any disagreements?
No, at all, man. No, zero.
I have Cenk Gönen.
You lying sack.
No. I'm not lying. I made my own special 11 of the decade, and Cenk Gönen is my goalkeeper.
There's no way.
Come on, man. Cenk trumps Tolga.
No. Tolga broke my heart way more. Even if Cenk is worse, at least in the Liverpool game, he didn't lose it for us. Even if he tried.
What about Hakan Arikan, fellas? McGregor. Come on, we got some.
McGregor.
What about that?
McGregor is so underrated, man.
Like, no, you're absolutely right.
He was so unlucky. If he had to have decent defense in front of him, he probably would have had a decent Beşiktaş career, man.
The two keepers I feel the worst for. No, I guess I'll say 3 because I'll add Karius to the bunch. I think he's maligned. But I will say McGregor I feel terrible for, and that Ukrainian fella. Boyko, yeah, I don't know if he really got a fair shot. I don't know if he's really any good either. But
I don't even know.
Boyko is shit, man.
I mean, maybe so. I just don't know. I didn't see it with my own eyes.
Still Dynamo Kiev's first goalkeeper, though. So
I'm not sure if he's still playing as number one, but I know he came back and was playing. But I know he had some errors and blunders.
Yeah, he's a type of goalkeeper that's going to make an error. Every couple of games he's going to make an error for sure. But he also
for me, he's on that list of guys that we just I never saw it with my own eyes in a Besiktas shirt alongside what's the Colombian defender that Alex is always on about?
Pedro Franco.
Milosevic. What's the Croatian guy? Sheldon Field. There are a few guys I didn't see them. I didn't see them as they never got enough of my or Enzo Rocco until recently. He's finally gotten his play. Santinho!
All right. Oh, such high expectations and he never really played.
Yeah, I mean,
I had serious expectations for him, man. And then he never played. Like he played like 3 matches or something. It's like the same with Bebe and Bebe. Do you remember
Bebe?
Sydney.
And he's actually good now. I remember him being like the most calamitous center back I've ever seen. Passing, he threw ball to the other team. I couldn't believe it.
He was very highly rated back then, man. We loaned him, and his option to buy was like 12 million or something.
Yeah. In FIFA back in those days, he was a great prospect. Guy.
I mean, he plays for Betis now. He's pretty solid, but
I guess not a good player.
I don't even remember him getting many chances, if I'm honest.
Not either, no.
Yeah, so I don't... Oh, Ibrahim Cash.
Oh,
Add him to my team. Oh, I'm dropping Pedro Franco. I'm putting in Ibrahim Cash.
So interesting, though. But so anyway, so Fabri is definitely the keeper I think we can all agree on. I will say that if Karius had the rest of the team set up that Fabri did, and everything was working in concert the way it was then, we'd probably feel very differently about Karius, and he might be viewed in higher esteem than he is right now among our fan base.
I think Fabri still is the better goalkeeper, if I'm honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe so. I can't say that definitively. I mean, he definitely performed better for us, but again, he had such a better side.
Karius has 2 big concentration lapses. It's just something that's part of his game, unfortunately. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He's good, but he's never gonna be great.
But anyway, we don't have to that. It's sort of speculative, but anyway, certainly I think we can all agree Fabri is the choice. So let's move on to the central defenders. And here we might have, I don't think we'll have any real disputes. So I'll throw my 2 out there, and then I'm curious.
I think there's a couple of solid choices here.
There are, but I think the top 2 for me seem clear. I guess that's how everyone feels about their own opinion about things. But for me, it's going to be Tomasz Sivok and Domagoj Vida. Who can top that? Come at me, bro. Come on. Who can top that?
I think you can't discount Marcelo. He was instrumental in 2 titles.
Interesting. I think he could possibly top Sivok, but maybe not Vida.
Pepe?
Yeah, I think if you're talking pure quality, you have to at least include Pepe in that conversation. Certainly. I think Vida is a good shout. I mean, I think if you look at the past decade and you look pure at quality, I really like Vida a lot. I think he's a great player, but he hasn't won anything with us yet. Marcelo was so instrumental in both those titles. Unfortunately, he left before we could go on that amazing Champions League run, and I do think Pepe had a huge part in that Champions League run for sure. But then we missed out on the titles. So I think Marcelo for me is a shoe-in. And then it's kind of between Sivok, who I always really loved.
I think you got to go Vida over Sivok, though, as far as quality. Because Sivak had, speaking of brain farts.
I don't know. I don't remember Sivak making brain farts.
Oh, I just remember our defense in general being prone to these sort of lapses of like where for 5 minutes.
He never really had a stable partner except for maybe Egemen for a while. But I think that
he was the most plagued by that. I think.
Yeah, he didn't have proper backs either. I mean, if you look back in that era, I think we had a huge deficiency in the left and right back position. I mean, Ibrahim was in his very late 30s, like 37 years old in the early 2010s, and then we got Master Koibasha after that, and
Smiley Koibasha.
Yeah, and I can't even remember who was our right back in that time because I don't think we consistently had one.
Serdar,
right back. No, Serdar was playing midfielder in his first stint.
Oh, that's right. Kortelush. Well, so interesting. So there's 3 names between Vida, Sivak, and Marcelo.
For me, it's I picked my pairing based off what I thought was the best pairing. For me, my choices are Marcelo and Tosic.
Marcelo and Tosic.
Yep. For me, that was the best pairing.
Okay, so you're looking at it as a pair.
To the back, yep. Yeah, I think Tosic was a great performer. And 16-17 and definitely 17-18 as well. So I feel like Tosic is undervalued by our fan base.
It's because he wasn't that good.
Yeah, I don't think he's that good. I like because he also came in as a left back and was switched to center. Like he was never like a natural fit anywhere. He was an engine. And he contributed to sides that played well, but I didn't think he was...
He performed really well with a good team around him, for sure. I mean, he was definitely serviceable, and he had he definitely had his moments, and he was such a warrior. He deserves an honorable mention, for sure, I think. But in terms of quality, I don't think he's in the top 5. But, I mean, it's not just about quality, it's also about results, and I think that's a good shout from Kartal.
All right, let's do this then. Between us, let's vote. Who's the top... Okay, Kaan, number 1 central defender.
Of the decade, Marcelo.
Okay. Evran, number 1 central defender.
I did more based on quality, so I think probably Vida was the best center defender.
All right, I'm going to go with Vida as well. Kartal, best central defender. Marcelo. So it's 2-2. God damn it. That was supposed to be decisive.
That is supposed to be Vida Marcelo. There you go.
There it is. It's Vida Marcelo. I had Sivak and Vida, but I mean, it's good. That's a perfect way of deciding the pair, I suppose. All right, so there you have it. We have Vida and Marcelo. So let's move on.
Let's do it with votes. It's better, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, too. So the goalkeepers, let's do that vote too.
We did. We all agreed on Fabry. That was a clean sweep.
I said Cenk.
Oh, come on.
This dude.
Jeez, this guy. Who gave him wine? Okay. Left back.
I don't like.
Left back. This might be easy as well.
Yeah, should be.
Ismail Koibasha.
It's Smiley Koibasha.
Ismail Koibasha. Fener Koibasha. Right. Ismail, right?
No.
Down.
Okay, so let's vote. Let's put this right to a vote. Kaan, you go first. So you already voted for Ismail?
Nah,
Adriano. Okay, Adriano. Kartal, who you got?
Adriano.
Evran, who you got?
It's got to be Adriano.
And I vote for Jonair. No, I'm kidding. I vote for Adriano as well. I actually do want to give a shout out to Jonair because for all the shit he's gotten, he's actually contributed in that position for a few years now.
He's been our best player this year, man.
For this, and he's like
he's been our best player.
Benjamin Button.
If he didn't have Adriano, then Jonair would be hands down the choice,
He's a Benjamin Button, He's getting better.
I mean, Adriano for me is... Adriano is like in the last 2 decades is like probably the second best left back to play in Turkey, behind Roberto Carlos. So,
What about Gökhan Suzan? Yep. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah,
he was definitely the best. Any more joke left backs along those lines, like Gökhan Suzan?
Nah.
Trying to think of any others.
Ibrahim.
It was a Deli Ibo. champion.
I love Ibrahim, but
No, you can't.
it's
And when
such
he
a-
was
such a
younger,
shame.
he was like
Yeah.
talismanic. He could have been so
Oh man,
much
his
more.
first season he was relentless.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had like, I really felt like his first couple seasons at Besiktas he was amazing. Then he had like a really big drop off where he was one of the biggest sources of frustration for me for a couple of years. And then like in his twilight years, he got good again. He got better again.
Yeah.
Like last couple of years, like he became the captain and stuff, and I don't know, became a less frustrating player to watch. But then, if you think back of the days when he was up against Milos Krasic, oh my god, that was so painful. Anyway,
But he always maintained the Delhi status. That man, he was a madman in the best of ways. Right back. This is, I think, again, going to be something of a clean sweep. So far, the central back debate was the best so far. Right back, Kaan, what do you think?
Mehmet Agun.
He's just center defensive mid. Let's relax.
I thought he was a
He was a
defensive
right
midfielder.
back. Mehmet Agun is a right back.
Maybe.
All right, well, so that's one vote. That's your vote then, Kaan.
No, Gökhan Gönül.
Go, Kaan, go. No, it's got to be right. Evran, what do you think?
Gekhan, yeah.
Good.
Everyone else other than Opare sucked.
Serdar Kurtuluş. No, I'm kidding.
Decent season. Or
Serdar
two.
cannot cross a ball.
He played in some Liverpool matches.
But he was
I recall.
pliable though defensively. I felt, except for that penalty in Brugge.
I just always felt like he had like the Ozan Tufan, like he had
Was-
that baby fat that he could never lose.
He was slow as balls, but he was. I don't know. I liked him. I never like.
I didn't
I know
hate
other
him.
people did
I mean,
not.
I
I
kind of
love-
hated him
yeah.
sometimes, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think he was
Um,
young 14-15. Sardar Kurtuluş. 2014, 2015, he was good.
yeah,
No,
he had
yeah.
that.
Thought so too. Very didn't get to, not underrated, but like he got a lot of slack that he didn't deserve. I felt like just because offensively he wasn't the greatest for sure, but
He was kind of useless offensively, if we're being honest. But
100% usually. But so, Kartal, who's your right back of the decade?
It has to be Gökhan Gönül, man. It's not for debate.
Yeah,
I'm
mine's
pretty
gonna-
sure I've seen Roberto Hilbert mentions on Twitter.
Oh, Hilbert.
but he wasn't better though. I mean, he was decent
He
offensively.
wasn't even good.
'Cause he was a winger.
Kaan hates
Not
Hilbert.
Decently off. He was not decent offensively, man. He just
Offensively, as a decent
He
offensively.
was not decent offensively. He only blind crossed and like he did 90 crosses and like one arrived.
I've
Yeah,
never seen
this
Tosic
is-
have a cross arrive, so it's
I think if there's like a most hated player of the decade, Kaan, it might be Hilbert. And what's funny is it's only because so many of us
he wore
liked
number 9.
Hilbert. It's because so many of us liked Hilbert and Kaan hated him.
I don't hate Hilbert. He's just shit. But there's other players I hate.
See, now you've said about Hilbert, he'd probably be on my two choice for sit right back.
I think for me, it'd be Gökhan Gönül.
It's because you were
Then
12 when he
Opare.
was playing.
So I have Gökhan Gönül, then Opare, and then now that you mentioned Hilbert. Although I honestly thought Hilbert was the last decade because it's just it's such an old
That's
memory.
true.
No, he came 2010. He came the same season that Quaresma came.
Oh yeah, you're
That's
right. That was like a surprise addition because it was like on top of. It was like, how can we possibly afford all of these guys?
We thought
Of course
that
we
was
couldn't.
like we got him for the right winger position, and that Quaresma would play left wing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, in his first stint, Quaresma played a lot of left wing. Once Simao came, he always played left wing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Hilbert, we thought we got a right winger, which was weird because we had just signed Quaresma, but then he ended up playing right back and sucking at it.
Although again, he reigned over a
Guy
pretty
didn't
nice
know
little
what an
era.
offside trap is.
Nice little era. All right, so let's move up into the midfield, and we're gonna start it up with a position which, again, there's gonna be literally no debate at all. Defensive midfielder, 100%.
Can
Let's
we-
just say it's a Thibaut Hutchinson now. And just not
Yeah,
even-
okay, yeah, don't even need to vote on that.
Yeah.
Jermaine Jones.
Jermaine Jones.
Jermaine Jones.
Belly Kaplak. No.
Nah, Steve Hutchinson.
Well, he had his moments.
He did, no. I mean, until he like screwed us over and like sued us. But I mean, to be fair, we did probably owe him money if we're gonna be honest.
I mean,
knowing how we operate.
I mean, he knew his career was over. I kind of understand.
Yeah.
You know? I don't sympathize, but I understand.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. But so
he has to think of his family and his future, you know.
Yeah,
he could have also said, "I'll just take 1.5 million and I'll leave the other 3 million on the table." I mean, 1.5 million seems like enough money to live.
You could invest that. Yeah, you could invest that and double it pretty. Whatever. But let's not even talk about Atiba much, because I feel like we're gonna have to really have the conversation of Atiba when we start debating the MVP.
Yeah.
So let's just save that till that part of the conversation, and let's move to a conversation that I think will be much more interesting, which is, who is your central midfielder of the decade? And I'm gonna always let Kaan go first, based on his, rank. But I'll alternate with the others.
It's a tough one, but. Because he's been so inconsistent. But I think when you have to look at the highs, I think you kind of have to go with Ozan. Because his ceiling was high, but...
All right. We'll save it for that. We'll talk more later, but I want to get everyone's vote first. So Ozan for Kaan. But Kartal, where are you going?
I think this is going to be a very different choice from everyone else. It's actually someone that played at the number 10 slot for us. But
Money?
But he's actually played number 8 now. And for me, it's Jose Sosa. I'm putting in that central midfield role.
That's you're trying to free up that slot for a number 10 while putting Sosa into the lineup. That's sneaky. Maybe I'll allow it, but that's going to screw up the vote. Maybe. Evran, who do you have as your?
I wanted to say Fernandez, but he made me so mad because I think his single season was probably the best. But I like Ozan better because he didn't piss me off as much. So I'm going to give it to Ozan.
Evran. I was going to say Manuel Fernandez, and your vote would have given him the title. But instead, you handed it to Ozan and Kaan.
That's what he gets.
So that's it. So officially, we're going off
the All-Star team.
Look what you've done, Evran! I thought you'd go Flair. He's Portuguese. He's like Flair. What happened? I thought for sure.
I told you, I think he was a better player, but the way he just decided I didn't want to play anymore and just stopped trying, I just can't forgive it. It's too much for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, the end of the Manuel Fernandez era was such a letdown, but the heights of the Manuel Fernandez era are why I give it to him. Just because
I don't think the heights were that good. It was individually he was good, but as a team, we were just like,
Yeah, no, but I think just individually, the heights of what his contribution to the club were. I mean, he was our best player for a while. He was the guy that, when they have the video of Turkish football and they show a little highlight of the best player from each team, he was the guy. Those are the expectations we'd come to put on him because of how exciting he sort of showed the potential to have. But in the end, obviously it didn't quite pan out. We're giving it to Ozan Ozikovic. So, of course, I would agree that he was a good contributor all in all, and I still somehow hope it works out enough. Maybe he'll be in the conversation for this upcoming decade. I think we're gonna have to have a little at the very end of this conversation, but about the next decade, and if anyone on this current unit, if we see them maybe making it onto that decade team 10 years from now. But before we get there, obviously we have lots to talk about here. So before we move up to the forwards and the wings, there's one more position in the midfield that we would be remiss to not discuss. Number 10. This could be an interesting conversation, although it might not be. Kaan, I'm going to, of course, give it to you again.
Even though he's an absolutely horrendous playmaker, he was such a clinical player. Anderson Talisca.
I was sure you were going to say Tabata first, just for the laughs.
That was kind of the previous decade.
Yeah, really? I thought he may have been.
He still played in 2010, 11. I think. Well, He didn't play. I think he sent him away due to the foreigner limit.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think the foreigner limit may have.
He didn't play in a game during the decade. That's for sure. I remember he played.
I think he did. No, he did.
I think he played in the
Quaresma.
qualifiers, European qualifiers.
Yeah, he played in the qualifiers. I remember.
Yeah,
that.
just Delgado
Again,
played in the
it's,
qualifiers.
Delgado,
Big
yeah,
Glorious,
Delgado
but-
was out in 2010. Yeah, interesting. I mean, that's like so coming into this decade. I think Delgado was the number 10. We had Sergen, Delgado. We had a pretty good tradition of number 10s. Yeah, and so you're going. We had Gucci then. So this decade we saw Gucci as a prominent number 10. Obviously, we saw Anderson Talisca and Ljajic, a little bit of Kagawa. If anyone wants to throw a wrench,
Jose Sosa.
yeah, who you've already given him your vote. Jose Sosa. Okay, Evran. Now it's your turn.
I also put Talisca, even though I guess he's not a true number 10, just because I don't think anyone else had that type of impact in that position. Despite the fact I think Guti's obviously a better player overall. He was 34 when he came in, or maybe 33.
He had a good first season, or at least a really good first 6 months or so, I think.
No.
And if you add his contributions as an assistant coach, just kidding.
Statistically, he had a really good first season because he contributed like 24 goals, I think. But
it's actually funny that we can say Guti is featuring as both a player in this decade conversation and as an assistant coach. He's certainly the only one who we can say that. No, Ilhan, no way.
He didn't play though.
No way, yeah. So interesting. Kartal, your pick.
Talisca as well.
Yeah, I guess I want to say Kagawa now just as another vote. Of course, you can't say that because he played here for like 3 weeks, but especially because Shen Gunesh like criminally underplayed him. But yeah, obviously Talisca is the choice. I wish that Shen Gunesh had not done what he did to Kagawa and he was still with us.
Shinno really fucked around with a lot of players, come to think of it. He fucked Boyko, he fucked Kagawa, he fucked Karius, he fucked Len.
Milosevic.
Yeah. He had a lot of... I don't know what his thing is, like, I really...
And Zoroko, I mean, Abdullah shown he has at least some function.
It's like he just, like, he was kind of like a petulant child who got a birthday gift that he didn't like and just refused to play with it. You know? And like, smells like poop. No.
That's funny.
For the parents among you.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Anyway. So, Talisca with a one-away victory right there.
Yeah, Talisca gets all the votes. No surprises. So then next up, let's talk some wings. Let's start on the right wing because I think we know that again, I think it's going to be a clean sweep. I'm gonna hand this one. I'm gonna let Evran go first because let's let him get it out of his system. Who are you gonna pick, Evran?
Jermaine Lin.
I'd have to say it would have to be the best player that's ever played the game, Ricardo Quaresma.
Yeah. Okay.
Ricardo Quaresma Bernardo. You know.
Ricardo Bernardo Andrade Quaresma.
So Kaan, you're going with the same?
Yeah, of course. Got to be the Quaresma man.
Kartal?
Dentinho.
Dentinho! Imagine I give it to
obviously.
Dentinho also and we split the vote just to mess with Evran's heart.
Filippo Losco.
Holoshko. What was the guy?
Always hated it when he played on the on the wings. Oh my god,
dude! Who was the guy that we had that was a former Fener player? Mehmet. What was his name?
Mehmet Yozgat.
Yozgat, yeah, he's my pick. Woo!
It was like the previous decade, man. That was 2004.
Oh man, really? Damn it! Why do you expose my age like that? God damn it! Okay. So yeah, I think we're all going Quaresma. That's why we went there first. Now let's argue a little bit, fellas, because I'm gonna enjoy this next one. Left wing. This should be. I can't wait to hear what you guys think on this one. Kaan, you go first.
It's a really tough one. I think you have to go with Ryan Babel, though.
Bingo. Yep. I agree. Gotta go Babel.
I mean, I'd love to say Nkudu, but he came too late.
Yeah, no, that's. I think when we talk about the next decade, he's one that might hopefully stick. Kartal, left wing.
There's only one choice for me, and it's Oljai Shahan.
I knew you were going to say that.
I forgot about Oljai. Oh my god, how did I forget?
I knew you. This is the debate I wanted us to have. Evran, where are you going?
Well, for me, it was a toss-up because I would say Babel, but I don't like him.
Yeah.
Pinkhead, and I can't say Oljai because Babel is significantly better than Oljai.
Yeah.
Oljai was good for the Fed level, but not for the Europa League / Champions League level. So for me, it was between Abubakar or as like a sort of second striker.
Come on, yeah. What do you got to do?
Or my guy who was my guy for a year and a half, Get Cantero. I think, in my opinion, he was the best, the second best winger we had for a short period of time. So that's why I put Tere there.
You're really gonna put Tere over Babel? Just look at the two of them.
Yes.
My God.
Yes.
You can't ever played on the left though.
I mean, Tere in his prime, I pick him over Babel too, if I'm quite
that
honest.
But
he played on the right
under Bilic.
I was thinking about when Quaresma came in. They both played sometimes.
Yeah, but Quaresma was forced out left mostly.
Well,
they can switch wings. I don't really care. That's why I have Quaresma and Tere on my wings.
I'm going with Babel, giving him the nod. Sorry, fellas, but yeah, I mean, I think
just to upset Sinan, I'm going to switch my vote.
No, too late! It's already written in the book. Done. No, I mean, definitely, I think honestly, the debate has to be between Babel and Oljai. Obviously, when you look at them individually, Babel's such a better player, but when you look at their character, their contributions relative to the rest of the roster they're playing with. The whole package in that regard. Oljai is, he pulls on some heartstrings for sure.
I think in terms of actually the football they allow you to play as well, I think Oljai's a better option. Oljai's just very, very fast at passing the ball, whereas Ryan Babel always takes out half an hour over the ball every time he's got it.
Holds on to his own.
Gets the ball on the left, puts his head down, cuts in on the right, tries to shoot. That's it. That's all he does every time. But Oljai would always play the ball very fast. It was great for all the kind of one-touch passing stuff we did. In that first year under Sheryl Ganesh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think when we look at Babel as a Besiktas player, he regained his place with the Dutch national team while he was a player for us. We got as high as we've ever gone in Europe. Got some silverware. I think Ryan Babel had more of a positive impact, on a brighter period for us. But also, his fall from grace coincided with Besiktas sliding into a very troubled period as well. So, it's all a little complicated, and obviously, the whole fighting with the fans. There's, he's leaving a very negative legacy, certainly. But
let's head over to the strikers and then the player of the decade and stuff, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Striker, and then
how long do you have, Evran?
At the end of the hour, the latest.
Okay.
We should be good as long as we don't have crazy arguments.
Yeah, I don't think we will. All right. So, I mean, left wing. That's a fun one. Last up for the team of the decade, we have our striker. This should maybe be an interesting conversation. Kaan, I hand over the mic to thee. Who do you have as a striker?
I don't know why this would be interesting. This is so obvious. I mean, there's only really one name you can go for, and I will not tolerate any objection on this one. I swear to God, if you object, you are a canary. It has to
so Demba Ba, is that obvious of a pick for you?
It has to be. Drum roll, please. The man, the myth, the legend. Kuven Yalcin.
Kuven Yalcin! From out of nowhere, he pulls ahead.
No, man, I think you got his name wrong. I think you meant Ali Kuchik. No?
Hey! Sinan Kurumush.
No. Of course, I am joking. Of course, I am joking. Of course, it can only be one man.
Mario.
No.
Glückliche spanische Held, den ich liebe, dein Temperament, mein Torero auf dem Fußballfeld, der ist mein Kopfball, deine Figur hält, todo lo que necesito.
How long are we gonna do this, Kaan?
Mario, mach ihn rein.
Get to the good part.
Mario Gomez, Mario Gomez, Mario Gomez. Cha cha.
Oh! No! Out of left field comes back! No! No! Okay, that's enough battle of the DJs here.
Yeah.
Mario Gomez is your pick.
Has to be.
Evran, who do you have?
I also picked Gomez because I felt like the best front three that we had on paper at one time was Tere, Quaresma, Gomez. I thought that was gonna be our Robin, Ribery, Gomez kind of thing. Didn't really exactly work out like that because of certain injury, Faker or whatever had to do some shenanigans. I think there's a lot of really good strikers, but Gomez was by far the most clinical, which is what you need in the end.
Kartal.
Nah, I'm serious about Ali Kuchik, man. That's my choice.
Not even this decade, man.
Nah, he was. He played 2011 under Schuster, but nah, it's Mario Gomez, man, definitely. Yeah. I would say if there was one man in Pub Day for man, it'd probably be Mario Gomez.
Nobody said Demba Ba. Huh?
That's my guy, but that's unfortunate.
I love Demba Ba, but yeah, you know.
If he scored versus Arsenal, maybe I'll put him there. But,
he won a title with us.
I know, and I gotta say,
12 minutes.
I have a Demba Ba shirt that I still proudly wear sometimes. That said "Ba" on the back. Yeah. Okay. There it is. Mario Gomez. Clean sweep. I thought we'd have a little debate there. So Gomez. So yeah, we all agree it's Mario Gomez. Let's quickly sort of move through some other highlights of the decade before the Aquaman has to go rehydrate. MVP. No, wait. Let me hold that one for last. Let's go goal of the decade. I want to start this time. My goal of the decade is Quaresma. Evran, you're gonna like this. Against what's the Israeli team?
Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Did he score against
Tel Aviv.
Oh yeah, the 3-2-1.
The game winner, pretty much
acting like he doesn't remember.
Come on, Evran, are you kidding me? He willed us we were terrible them all match. He
scored 2 great goals that game.
Beautiful goal. For me, that's the goal of the decade, just because I remember being the most excited by it, impacted by it, happy about it. Kind of felt relieved. It gave me all the it made me laugh, made me cry. I'm just kidding. Evran, let me ask you since I've mentioned a Quaresma goal. Another goal I give a special shout out to is another Quaresma goal, one where he scored against Fenerbahce, which was from 26 yards out.
Whoa,
from outside.
Maybe everyone's gonna pick that one, dude.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't steal anyone's thunder. Okay, Evran, what's your goal of the decade?
For me, the best goal that was scored this decade in terms of just beauty was the first goal he scored against HJK Helsinki. Got the ball from Guti, back to goal, flicked the ball up, juggled it, just turned and volleyed it. To me, that's one of the best goals ever scored.
That was going to be my choice, man.
The game, but
still
extremely underrated. No one ever even talks about that goal. But in terms of the goals that made me really happy, obviously the Trivela versus Fenerbahce was he scored the Trivela, and then I think for me, just I don't know what it was, but Talisha's goal against Benfica, I just didn't see
Oh.
it coming. Like
That was a
we don't score free kicks in Europe. That just doesn't happen. And then he hit that
and
in the
that
last
one
minute,
too was just
and I just
so,
lost it. I couldn't believe it. I was emotional. Like I was just like,
that was one of those
cool,
like
but, yeah.
football is so beautiful.
I was like,
this man was
Vince
loaned
Bacon.
to us by Benfica. What's going on?
And then
Okay.
also special shout out to the Trabzon goal Quaresma scored, but then he got sent off afterwards.
Hey, but hold on. Let other people
Yeah,
get the mic
exactly.
for a
You're
second
like
here,
doing
Evran.
like 5
Look, you
and
give these
1.
kids the mic for 1 minute.
Jeez.
Jesus.
Let's Kartal go next.
Kaan, what do you got?
No, let's Kartal go. I'm saving the best for
Okay.
last. And he's totally going to pick the
okay.
same goal I did.
Yeah, he's gonna steal your thunder, man. It's your fault. Kartal.
Goal of the decade. What I was going to pick the Helsinki one that Evran was talking about, but Sinan, thinking about it, I think the most beautiful goal this decade was probably the first goal in Vodafone Park, Mario Gomez against Bursaspor.
Ooh, a sentimental favorite.
I was thinking about that one too, and it's definitely up in my top 3, I think. But I have to go with Abubakar against Benfica, the 3-3. It's not a beautiful goal, but it's
The Rabona.
it's probably the most emotional goal, or one of. I mean, coming back from 3-0 in the Champions League, it's phenomenal, and just everyone going crazy. I think lots of people lost their voices that day. I think that was just... It's one of those the most emotional goals, I think. I also definitely think that Cenk's goal, the first one, if we're talking about pure beauty, I think we have to make mention of that one too.
It was a bit of a sprinter, but we'll let it go.
Okay, let's now move on. This one, interesting. How about manager?
Hold on. We
decade?
missed one goal. Oğuzhan versus Bursa. I think with that was one of the best. But
I mean, if we're gonna talk about highlight goals, we have to mention Mario Gomez's flying header against Fenerbahce, or his amazing equalizer against Galatasaray when they had just scored thanks to
when
Güven.
Muslera dropped the ball, I don't know about that, but
Muslera dropped the ball. What?
wait, it went through his hands.
He got a hand to it. And it went
Who
through
gives
his
a
hand.
shite, man? It's all about Mario.
Okay. Come on, guys. Let's move on. Manager of the decade. Who's your favorite manager this decade? Kaan.
Favorite? Has to be Şenol Güneş. I mean, he left a sour taste in our mouths, and he continues to add some piss and vinegar to it every day by giving stupid media interviews like he did today. But it has to be Şenol Güneş. There can be only one, and I'm going to let the dog in now. Be right back.
Evran, how about you?
I would say the two coaches that played Quaresma the most. So, no, I'm joking.
Bernd Schuster.
Schuster I liked, but obviously we were just flawed as a team, so that didn't work out. So it has to be Şenol because he made me the happiest.
Kartal.
Şenol Güneş, for me, my favourite coach in my life, really. Şenol Güneş, definitely. He's given me probably the happiest moments in my life, man. That might be quite sad for some, saying that the happiest moments in my life came through football, but for me, it's true.
Understand.
Well, now I want to be... obviously, everyone should say that, but I'm going to be a contrarian for fun, and I'm going to say Slaven Bilic. I feel like he built the backbone of the team that Şenol Güneş sort of rode to the, past the finish line. But Slaven Bilic did a great job of building camaraderie. Mm-hmm. He wasn't obviously much of a technician in the end, but who knows? Honestly,
I would love to see Bilic as a technical director or sporting director, but
Yeah, because he really does have a way of kind of.
Didn't he insist on Dani Nkunku? So
Noenku, yeah.
But obviously Şenol Güneş is a pick. And so let's move on. Match of the decade, the match that you loved the most. I'm gonna go first because I've been being too nice to you guys. February 26th, 2015. Beşiktaş beat Liverpool on penalties.
Big game.
That's fine. Anyone else? Anyone else want to say anything?
I mean,
back when I thought Tolga was going to be good.
Yeah.
I think match of the decade. There's two candidates for that, in my opinion. And,
Okay.
So I'm gonna let these guys go first.
All right, Kartal, you go first.
I think my choice here is going to be quite shocking because the end result maybe wasn't what they wanted, but in terms of a pure football match and the excitement and really, I felt like both teams just left everything on the park that night. I think especially Crash 2 Leon won in Vodafone Park in the quarterfinals of the Europa League. I felt it was a pure football match. I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever
if
watched
you're a
anything like that in my
neutral,
life.
probably.
Yeah, I had people coming up to me after that game saying, "Oh, that was a great game your team played the other night." They were very unlucky, but also Leon put in a great performance as well that night. So I think from a neutral perspective and from a pure football perspective, that was probably the game of the decade for me.
Oh, that's a good show.
Very surprising.
Yep.
Yeah. I
Evran?
like it. Evran.
Well, probably Beşiktaş 3 Fenerbahçe 1 is the game I rewatched the highlights of the most for certain reasons, so I can lay in the wake and just remember Quaresma's greatness.
God damn it. You know how much like airtime has been devoted to Quaresma so much?
I swear to God, yours.
It's my last chance.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no.
So,
in the next decade, Quaresma's out.
Since neither any of you mentioned these matches, I'm happy you didn't. But there's two clear picks, I think. First and foremost, Beşiktaş Benfica 3-3. I think that's just such a phenomenal match for the neutral as well. Similar to what Kartal said about the Lyon game.
I'm back.
It's an amazing story, really. It's a fantastic game that will be remembered for decades to come. So I think that's my number one choice. But there's another match that definitely deserves mention in Game of the Decade. Much like the Game of the Decade in the 2000s was Fenerbahçe 3, Beşiktaş 4, I think the Game of the Decade, especially in the Super League in the 2010s, has to be Trabzonspor 3, Beşiktaş 4.
Yeah, when Rodallega hit the post
one.
from the hat from kickoff, that was
Oh
really
my
cross. And the comeback, that was a wild game.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, good
Fantastic.
choices.
3-2 down. Talisca scores the free kick, 3-3.
Yeah.
Then Atiba scoring the winner in added time, 3-4.
Yeah.
And that game kind of clinched the title for us as well, I think. Like, that was one of those games. At that, when Atiba scored that goal, you just knew, okay, we got this. This is our year again. There's no way in hell we're giving this away. Because you don't win a match like that if you're not going to go all the way.
Well, that's a perfect segue, I think, to the last conversation of this decade, which I guess sorry, not the last decade, I should say, which goes to the MVP. And you've already just, you've mentioned an Atiba masterclass in passing when we're talking about the match of the season. Well, who's your MVP? I shouldn't pick it for you. Kaan, you go first.
Atiba Hutchinson.
Gotta be, right?
Evran.
Evran.
Save Evran for last.
I didn't want to save Evran. I want to get out of the way. Go ahead, Evran.
There's a certain Portuguese winger that was pretty good.
Simão Sabroso?
No, not
Simão.
Simão, not Bebe,
Good
not
pick.
Julio Alves.
Wow, Bebe.
No,
Bebe.
it has to be
Midfielder.
From homeless to hero.
RQ7, RQ17. It has to be my choice.
So do you drive an Audi Q7?
If I had money, maybe.
Okay, all right. No more time done. That's it. Kartal, what do you get?
I'm actually siding with Evran here and say Ricardo Quaresma as well.
Oh, another Bebe pick.
I just feel as if
Stalemate.
not just the impact he's had on us as a team, but I think see the impact he's had in the kind of global recognition as Beşiktaş as well.
I'm
feel like he's
embarrassed that the Black Eagles podcast is split on MVP. For that. It's
Okay.
Atiba Hutchinson, guys, for crying out loud.
I will say.
Kaan.
When we played the big games, Quaresma showed more ability, like the against in the European games. I think there were times Atiba at the end looked slightly out of his depth, like Lyon, Bayern. So I do think maybe Quaresma was better, but Atiba was definitely more consistent. as throughout the league. He didn't get red cards every 3 seconds.
I don't remember
Hey,
him
Kaan.
looking out of place against Lyon, to be honest. The only match against Bayern,
The first leg I remember, but
Kaan,
first
Kaan,
leg
real
we
quick.
bossed the match until until Tall Guy decided to give away a stupid free kick that led to the 1-1, and then Fabry gave it. Oh,
Well,
wait,
he-
that was a
Atiba did that pass back also.
that was a poor back pass from Atiba, you're right. And then
he
did
tried
the
to
same
dribble
thing
too
against
many.
Bayern.
But Kaan, real quick.
Yeah.
I feel like our votes are worth like 1.5, maybe. Is that in the official rule book? Could you check real quick? I feel like we get 1.5 for each vote. So I feel like Atiba.
No. But I'm reading here in the rule book, the podcast host, in event of a tie, will decide the tie.
Boom!
So
Atiba Hutchinson wins. Shout out to Dennis Opal, by the way, who actually, and I want to quote him. I don't want to mince words. Dennis Opal said. So it's the picture of who's the pirate of the last Caribbean? I don't know his name. Jack Sparrow, but he's shushing off. He says shoo to anyone that thinks Atiba is not MVP. So that's to Evran and Kartal, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Shoo. So, but for real, shoo, Evran. You got to go to dinner. So you.
Wait. Before we let him go, disillusion of the decade. We gotta squeeze that in. Come on. Disillusion. I mean, it's not all about the good times, guys. It's also about the biggest disappointments. And there's
actually one other thing I want to have Evran sort of weigh in on too. But okay, biggest disappointment, Evran. You go first.
Oh
since
man,
we're talking about you.
I'm trying to think what time I cried the hardest. I think the Brugge game.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say when Quaresma left.
No, that's
the
up there.
scenes
That's
at
up
the
there.
airport with Serda Nadal the first time.
No.
Or when you saw the
When he
pictures
peed
of
on
him
the
in a
guy?
Kassenpascha shirt.
Oh my god.
Oh, I remember all of us in the chat just sending you the links and the pictures, and you were like, "No, this can't be true. This is impossible." And your face was melting.
Yeah. No. I mean, Bayern probably also hurt me emotionally. I didn't recover for at least a month. I was sad, but I think Bruges and Bayern were the two that hurt me. And then Sporting, honestly, probably that was our best team we ever had. And then to blow that because our goalie was completely inept and incompetent. But
Played such a good game, man, and our goal was so good.
Quaresma's just, whatever.
Orgasmic goal, man. Fantastic assist, Quaresma, and a sublime finish by Mario Gomez. I have a shirt from that game.
Quickly, we're off topic. Kartal, what about you? Biggest disappointment?
This is quite a hard one, man. There's been quite a lot of disappointments, to be honest.
That's what she said.
Oh boy. I just want this on the record because I think he's a fellow Scot for you, Kartal. But my biggest disappointment is Craig Thompson. And everything he brings with him. But sorry, go ahead, Kartal.
I think for me, it's the penalty shoot against Leon. Just that.
Lyon.
I feel like. I mean, Mitrovic and Tosic, man, what are the penalties all about, man? I think my grand could have hit better penalties than them, seriously. After that brilliant game, mate, I think we deserve to have that kind of nice moment at the end, and it just didn't happen.
Didn't we also sub Quaresma off so he couldn't take one?
Yeah.
That was really
Yeah, but he was injured because he missed the
Yeah.
last game through injury.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
they rushed him to come back and then
I did.
put everything
Yeah.
on the line, to be honest.
Yeah, but he got subbed off in the 125th or 115th.
115th. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he could have probably made it 5 more
I
minutes.
think
but
they should have
did
just
sub
left him
Holda?
on. Sorry?
I think
So
they subbed
Kaan,
Holda,
you're
right?
last.
I've always been.
Kaan, you're last.
I've always had that feeling if we won that penalty shoot, we could have went on to win that tournament, but you never.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us.
My biggest
We started to believe. But so Kaan, how about
My
you?
biggest disillusionment of the decade came much like in the first decade, where I kind of lost all confidence in the fairness of the world of Turkish football, and that was after the the thrown out match against Fenerbahce, how we got absolutely.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say when they threw something at Şenol Güneş's head.
No, I mean that's football, you know, shit happens. But the aftermath of that, the political involvement of Devlet Bahçeli and Erdogan getting involved and saying the match should not be. What was it? What did they say? They said the match should be continued and shit like that. And the TFF literally bent over backwards, offered up their asshole to those two pricks, and just said, okay, you know what, rule book, no matter.
Tell us how you really feel, Kaan.
It was, for me, that was one of the low points in my football. You know, there's just, for me, like,
existence.
Despite the fact that I make money with writing and stuff like that, and it just, for me, that was there was a breaking point almost for me. I was ready to walk away from Turkish football forever because it was, yeah.
All right. Well, and so Evran is going to depart, and we should start wrapping up this episode, sort of. We have a couple things to handle post Evran leaving. So Evran, salute to you. Thanks for doing this episode. We'll obviously hear from you soon enough in the coming episodes. But let's continue. There's one more thing I'd like to ask you guys. And this is, let's look forward for a moment to the next decade, which is just beginning. Nothing has really, we've only had one match against Erzurumspor so far, officially. But so, looking at this current roster right now, every piece of it, and what they'll contribute to the coming decade. So, for example, Burak Yilmaz probably won't make the coming decade's team of the decade because I think his largest contribution will likely have been last season, which was technically the last decade. But so, looking at this roster right now, who do you think we will say by the end of this decade, in 2030? I hope we're still doing the podcast, by the way. Cheers, fellas. But is there anyone on this current roster that will be in that team of the decade? Kartal, what do you think?
I'm going to go for my namesake. Hopefully Kartal Kayra Yilmaz.
there's a Kartal in the record book.
Did you see that little interview with him, Kartal?
I've actually not watched it yet, but I did see the quote where he was talking about how his dad's been going to every game for the last 35 years and how he's obviously, well, just like myself, I mean, anyone that's dating Kartal is a Beşiktaş fan, you know.
You have to think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But seriously, do you feel like?
I see a lot of potential in the kid. I think he's a good player. He's got a good touch on him. He seems very calm and composed when he's on the ball as well. So I think he could maybe be the guy that fills up that kind of.
Against Wolves, and he actually looked pretty good.
He did look pretty decent, I imagine. But anyone else? Kartal?
Maybe Nkudu as well. Hopefully.
Nkudu. What about Vida? Do you think Vida will make it far enough into this decade to make 2 decade teams for Beşiktaş?
Possibly. It could be like the Seahawk. It could be like a Seahawk. Kind of leave halfway through the decade, kind of thing. So.
I mean, he's 30 years old now, so I mean, he could still go for 2, 3, 4 years. You'd never know.
Yeah. And I mean, at this level, I think he'd still certainly be in a conversation.
It always kind of depends on how he physically deteriorates. You know, how can he maintain the level he's playing at right now and stuff like that. I think if he can, and if he's going to sign, because this deal is up in 2022, so if he renews and maybe takes a lower wage or something like that, I could definitely see him ending up in the team of the 2020s. You know, granted, if we do something the coming couple of years, of course, if we win like a title or something, which will have to remain to see. But otherwise, I think Josh Kevin Nkudu probably has the best shot. He looks like a good player.
And he signed up long term, so that helps, right?
Yeah.
We know he'll be around for a bit.
Hopefully, yeah. If he does well, I mean, hopefully, if he does really well, we can sell him to Barcelona or something. I hear they need a quick winger.
So, have you guys ruled out Adem Ljajic?
No, but
it would take a upswing, I guess we could say, from this point.
it's the same kind of it's the same for all these guys like Nkudu and Vida, the same thing. I mean, Lige is now 28, I want to say. He's turning 29, so he's still got a couple of really good years left in him, but it's all about what are we going to do in the next couple of years? Are we going to win trophies or not? And if not, then I think I mean I could see Lige getting sold, honestly, because he's got a good he's one of our few valuable players on the squad, really. So
yeah. I mean, when you look at our current, like our decade team, nobody on that team did not win titles. All the guys that
Vida.
Vida, that's true. So, some guys, their talent could, kind of compensate for the lack of, things like Ljajic, if he could string together a couple seasons similar to his last one, or better, ideally, he could certainly make the list. Obviously, yeah, I agree. Nkudu is the one we want to see going forward. I think Vida has a real shot to contribute to another good 3 years, which would probably put him on the list.
If he sticks around that long. I mean, again, he's one of those players that has
maybe even Robosho, right? He's young enough that he could stick, ideally.
Yeah, maybe.
Karius probably won't make it into the decade very far. I would imagine he's not going to make it through this next transfer window. Not this next one. The next one, not this one. I'm sure he'll stick around for the rest of this season, but I doubt much further than that. But so, yeah, I don't know. I think Nkudu is the one we can all look at and hope for the most from thus far. But we'll see.
Certainly.
I want to quickly read through our contributions online. Is there anything anyone else has to say before I do so?
Go, Besiktas.
Hey, come on! You can't be stealing my... All right, so let's go. Let's look at what some of our listeners have contributed over here. First of all, I've got. Since we've already mentioned Dennis Opal, let's talk about Dennis again. At Selzero, Selzero, says, having started with all enthusiasm, I regressed into despair and eventually actual pain. This is how far I got. Pain, Sinan, you caused pain. And he gave us Fabri in goal, Marcelo, Pepe, and Ferrari. So he went with a 3-man backline.
Ferrari? He wasn't in
Ferrari. And he went with Ernst and Atiba as a 2-man backline. Ernst, we've said this previously. He didn't get enough time in this decade to earn that. And then he has Demba Ba and Mario Gomez up front. So he didn't really finish his lineup. But so he picked the only one that's interesting is Ferrari, Matteo Ferrari. Hadn't thought about him. Interesting choice. Any thoughts there, guys? Comments?
That's a shocking choice, man. Absolutely shocking. I don't see what this guy was thinking, to be honest.
Ferrari wasn't in this decade, so.
Oh boy, and Ernst wasn't really either. So on that vein, here's a really funny one, because speaking of not in this decade, someone writes Aussie Zerzavatci, Zerzavavatci. He writes Ahmed, Hassan, Cordoba, Toraman, Usulmez, Delgado, Panju, Mansiz, Nihat. But how people don't talk about Ahmed Hassan is beyond me.
I think
there's not a single one in the decade in discussion.
I think some people don't understand what the word decade means. I think they probably confuse it with century, because I had a similar one sent into.
No, and shouts to Ozzy, because those are all fantastic choices if we're gonna be like serious for a moment. But yeah, not a single one from the decade in question. But so then we have some other ones that were more on target. Uggs. What's his at Ur4_20_10 420 shouts. He has in his lineup Fabri, Gökhan, I suppose that's Gökhan Gönül, Vida, Toraman, and then Deli Ibo. He has Usulmez. So he has Ibrahim Toraman and Ibrahim Usulmez in that line. Is Ernst, Manny Fernandez, Sosa. There's a Sosa shout out to you as a number 10 though, and then he has Quaresma and Torre. So there's There's another Evran in the batch, and then Gomez.
That's everyone's burner account, I think.
Yeah, maybe so. Huh? But he had Ibrahim Torman and Deli Iba, which Evran is not wise enough to know not old enough to know anything about. Then we have Mikhail 5_. I didn't know you could put an underscore at the end of your name. He has Fabri, Gökhan Gönül, Marcelo, Sivok, Adriano, Atiba, Ozzy, Talisca, Quaresma, Gomez up front, and Babel on the left side. Very similar to mine. He also picks his MVP as Atiba. He has Simão versus Fener as his favorite goal. His favorite moment was first place in the Champions League group stages. Not quite a moment per se. No, those are all good choices, honestly.
Yeah, sensible young man.
A very sensible young man. Also, Uggs, the guy who I forgot to say earlier, the last guy, Uggs picked Quaresma. He had Olcay versus Fener in the 90th plus 3 in extra time, and he had Beşiktaş 3 goals against Fener. That was I think the Quaresma match.
Why do you always pronounce it Fener?
Fener. It's my American. I do it like sorry. It's like a personal joke that I don't explain ever. Fener. I say it like a Cali girl. Fener. Then we have Timur Demirson, Timur_Ironside, who picked Fabri. And then he has Hilbert, Marcelo, Sivok, and
I knew
Adriano.
I saw Hilbert somewhere. Timur, what are you doing?
Hilbert! Okay, and then we have Atiba and Manny. We have Sosa, Talisca, Gomez, and Cenk Tosun on the wing. Wow, it's one of those. He has MVP, Atiba, good, the ultimate professional, he says. Goal of the decade, the tiki-taka goal against Bursa, which we actually mentioned. Favorite match, Lyon 2-1. Then losing on penalties. So, interesting. That's exactly what you said. Is that another burner? And then our last one is at Edgebert, at ECGBER, Bertolu, BERTOGLU. He picks Fabri, Gökhan Gönül, Marcelo, Sivok, Adriano, Ozzy, Atiba, Talisca, Sosa, Abubakar, and Gomez.
Quaresma.
He also
I know someone who would be upset with that.
Evran is like, if only he was here to receive this information. He has his MVP as Mario Gomez, and he has Simão versus Fenerbahce as his goal, and then Beşiktaş Galatasaray 3.
The second guy who mentions Simão's goal versus Fenerbahce, and honestly, I can't even remember it.
It was a good goal, man. It was a very good goal.
Him scoring against Galatasaray.
I gotta see that.
Like his first 6 months were really good.
Yeah,
He scored against Fener, against Galatasaray. He also scored against Braga.
The goal against Fener was really good. It was a really good goal.
I've always been a big Simão fan. Even before he played for Beşiktaş, I was always a big fan. Yeah, I don't think anybody picked the side that we picked. Everyone had
Sivok, I think Sivok was pretty common there, and I rightfully so. I think
Sivok. So the closest, Mikhail was the closest, but he had Sivok instead of we picked Marcelo. He had Marcelo and Sivok. We picked Marcelo and Vida.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It just shows you that there's some diversity of thought there. And of course, even we had some disputes as well. So it goes to say that it was a good decade. It's nice when you can have these debates. That means there's lots of good players to talk about and good memories to have. And so we have had them, folks. Kaan, do you have anything from WhatsApp that you want to do the honors?
I think I already shared that with you. Did you include that?
No. I was just sharing straight off.
Okay, so we got one WhatsApp message. Let's see. So this WhatsApp message is from what's his name? Nejat from Köln in Germany. So let's see. His team is Cordoba, Gökhan Gönül, Pepe, Marcelo, Adriano, Quaresma, and then between brackets Olcay Şahan, Atiba between brackets Fabian Ernst, Sosa between brackets Ozhan, Talisca between brackets Fernandez, Babel between brackets Abubakar, Mario Gomez between brackets Cenk and Dembaba, MVP Atiba Hutchinson. Favorite match for him was Beşiktaş Benfica. Goal of the decade for him was Cenk Tosun against Benfica. And his runner-up was Talisca's goal versus Trabzon. I imagine that's the free kick, and then he also added plus many. So I guess he has a lot of Talisca a lot of goals in general that he really likes.
We also had a lot.
His favorite moment was "Goodbye Liverpool." So I bet he loves our outro on the podcast.
Well, that's why I picked it.
I don't get that guy's on there. I mean, he's got it all from this decade, but Cordoba.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that was
I did tell him.
And Ernst's.
I did tell him.
Ernst played till 2012 at least. He was there for 2 years of this decade.
But his highlight was that year.
I did point out the Cordoba thing to him, and he said, "Well, we didn't have a real keeper since Cordoba, but I guess I'll take Fabry." So he goes with Fabry then instead of Cordoba. So thank you.
Interesting. I kind of I like that because that's a very consistent kind of negativity. Like if you're gonna be that negative about it, then you should be like a flat.
For
line,
me,
you know?
I mean, I would agree if he said we didn't have a good goalkeeper since Cordoba
of the level of
Fabry.
Cordoba.
But I think Fabry definitely was on that level in the sense that.
I would agree with him that if he thinks that the level to obtain is always Cordoba, then yeah, I don't think we've reached that level since Cordoba. But I don't think that doesn't mean Fabry wasn't very good. And you know me, I had the feeling, I don't think his legacy is.
I had the same feeling of security with Fabry as I had with Cordoba, and it's the only two goalkeepers I ever had that with. Like, you know, when you have that feeling like the opposition gets a free kick, a dangerous free kick, and you're like, yeah, I'm not worried. You know, I only ever had that with two goalkeepers, and that's Cordoba and Fabry.
Yeah, and I can't pretend I have that with Karius. I mean, I don't feel like I'm not that unsure about it when he's in there. You know, whatever. Let's wrap this thing up. We're gonna have lots to talk about. Obviously, like I said, we're gonna have our Erzurum score and Sivas episode in the coming week, maybe Monday or so, Kaan, and we'll talk. But let's take us out, Kaan. Say what people need to be thinking about before they wrap up our episode.
Just follow us on social media at Eagles_podcast, at Beşiktaş_int, at Sir_Rice_a_lot, at Kartal L Ogur, if I'm not mistaken. So Kartal Big L Ogur. And at Razerian, RAZZERIAN, and of course you can follow Evran as well at the Aquaman. That should be his handle, right? No, it's what is his handle?
Fan of BJK.
Oh my gosh. Everyone. Anyway, I bid you adieu, and I hope for a very good decade in the 2020s. Let's hope for a win against Sivasspor this weekend.
Yeah, I'll be in the stands for that one. Boys. So hopefully.
Hey, get some sounds. Record some sounds.
Certainly will. Hopefully.
And of course, I have to say, this is very important. Go Beşiktaş! And for the record, I want it to be out there. Everyone is at fan of BJK.
Do not follow him.
If you want to hear some Quaresma propaganda. Quaresma-ganda.
Oh, Quaresma scored again. What a fantastic penalty.
He's stuck in the attic somewhere just watching it. Yeah, keep that everyone. And in the hot tub.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.